We're back once again for another episode of The Blue Corner. My name is Dennis, and I'm going to jump straight into it this week, but I'm going to remember to tell people, please hit the subscribe and ring that bell. And especially if you're into the Aussie combat scene, I try to have a lot of guests to do, whether it's in the mixed martial arts space or, as of today, we have a guest in the boxing scene. And it's kind of funny because last week's guest, and I literally only noticed this today, last week's guest is, his fight name is actually the Golden Boy, and he's the Golden Boy of Australian MMA. And this week I'm joined by the Golden Boy of boxing. That you can't write that. That just doesn't happen. But anyway, without further ado, I'll introduce him straight away. He obviously, as I said, he goes by the name of the Golden Boy. He's got a record of 8-4, and I'll introduce him now. He goes by the name of Tyson Lantry. How are you, and how has life been treating you?
Yeah, good guys, good. Things are okay considering we're all going through lockdown, but we're surviving and we're getting there. So ticking away.
So how hard has lockdown been for you? Like in regards to, obviously, you made a little bit of noise. I think it was last year, right?
Yeah.
And that was obviously during the pandemic as well. So, but we weren't as tightly regulated as we are right now. But like, how has this latest lockdown kind of affected you? And not only as I guess a boxer, but also in regards to, I guess, because you're a business owner as well, in regards to running your own gym. So how has that affected you?
Look, as far as the gym goes, the gym's been, extremely hard. We've had, I've got a team of 15 fighters as well as classes for fitness and whatnot. So as far as the gym goes, it's, sort of sat us on our bum, really. We are allowed to do one-on-ones, but they have to be outdoors. And at the moment where we are, in the Hunter Valley, you have to be inside, your own LGA, or 5 kilometres outside of it. So for most of my athletes and whatnot, they're travelling from anywhere from Singleton to Newcastle to Central Coast and sort of meet me in the middle at Western where the gym is. So it's been quite hard for them because they can't make it at all. So, the gym wise, it's been really tough, but, in saying that, we're currently building a brand new facility. So, we look forward to showing our clients, the new facility as soon as it's finished. As far as me, oh man, it's been real tough for me this time. Last time, I was lucky. I got the phone call on 5.5 week sort of notice, but lockdown last time was nowhere near as hard. Lockdown was sort of, you just, had to be careful of what you're doing, and that was about it. You could still have people around and just had to be numbered and so on, where this lockdown, obviously my coach, Jamie Pittman, he's in Canberra, so there's certainly no travelling between him and I. My pad man that helps out with like pad work when I'm at home, he's from Newcastle, which is outside of my LGA. So we haven't been able to see each other in a good 5-6 weeks now. So that's been, really tough. I guess, where I get lucky is I own my own gym, so I can, go to my gym and do my own thing. But as a lot of athletes will tell you, it's not the same, not at all.
Yeah, and I guess, but being a pro fighter as well, is there no way that you can, I guess, because I mean, as we spoke about just before we jumped on this, obviously you're away with work at the moment, right? And you've been able to get exemptions to travel quite some distance. I'm not exactly sure what the distance is, but like, I can kind of understand like. With just gyms in general, like a fitness first and whatnot, like them having tighter restrictions. But like being a pro fighter, is there no way you guys can, I guess, get an exemption to continue on, or would it only kind of work if you were in a legitimate fight camp at present? Or
I think, the only real way you're going to get, away, not away with it, but, be able to do it is, if you've got some, a serious team behind you as far as, No Limit, or whoever, which have a bit of push and pull, and can actually write to the government or whoever's needed to be able to say, look, he's fighting in 8 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever. We need him to be able to do work with such and such. And I guess in a way we could probably enter the bubble, as they say, and do your own thing from there. But at this point in time, I don't think it's been done. And I think people have choosing to take the risk of getting caught and just go on to certain gyms or whatever. But for me, boxing wise, there is no other gyms around. That I go to personally myself anyway. So I'm pretty stuck.
And I guess it would be kind of hard as well, because as you say, you do run the risk, right? And being a business owner and so forth, like the fines that you're obviously looking at as well, it would be a tough one that if you did run the risk and got caught, right? I mean, I don't even know what they are now. I think they're like $10,000-$15,000 fines, right?
Yeah, it was 5 at the start, and last I heard it's around 15 now. So it's quite a hefty fine to go somewhere.
So it's crazy. I mean, look, and I want to get to it, and I think it's crazy because in a sense, I read somewhere, and it's weird because we're going to go from now to kind of backwards, I guess. But like, I guess just the timing of it is, I did read somewhere or I heard somewhere where you were talking about, that you see yourself with the professional fighting career, going or finishing it between kind of the ages of 30 and 32, I think was the number, around that number, right? Which, I mean, look, I guess you could drag it out a little more, because you see a lot of fighters push it to, say, 35. Obviously, in the MMA space, we've seen fighters go into their 40s, their early 40s. But you've obviously made a conscious decision to kind of like look at that number. As I say, it was loosely 30 to 32. But when you see these kind of years kind of slip by right now, are you kind of seeing it as like the end of your career being taken from you, or do you see yourself maybe then going, look, maybe I am going to push it to 34 now?
No, look, that decision of 30 to 32 was based off, continuing to take the punishment of what a professional boxer has to outlay day in, day out with, sparring and fights and, regular fights and whatnot, So, I mean, as far as this year goes, we've had one fight, and that's not what any pro wants to do, but, it is the way it is with COVID at the moment. And I don't think there'd be any pros that wouldn't say, well, I can make up that time towards the end of my career because I didn't take punishment for that year the way that, we usually would. And I mean, for me, that call was made from myself, at the simple fact that I have kids. So I've got 2 boys and I've got a family, and, I don't want to be one of those fighters that can hardly speak when he's finished his boxing career. I want to pass on the knowledge that I learned, and I want to, be able to be a dad and a good partner to my partner and kids. So, that's where that call was made from. So, without, if I don't fight for another year or whatever it may be, depending on this COVID, I will most definitely push past that little bit longer and set that distance that little bit further.
And nice, and with the kids, since you brought them up, I just want to know, are they looking to follow in Dad's footsteps, or is it something that you're trying to shy them away from, just purely because, as you say, I mean, look, boxing is an unforgiving sport, and the thing that always amazes me with boxing is, because as I say, I deal with a lot of MMA guys as well, right? And a lot of the times with MMA, they'll go on a 4-0 run, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8. And they'll turn pro. And then you hear like boxers, they'll have this massive amateur career before they even turn pro, right? And the other thing that I noticed as well is, when it comes to training camps, the thing that amazes me with you guys is literally the punishment you hand out during camp. Like a lot of the MMA guys, as we like to say, they like to spar at about 60, 70, it sometimes gets turned up to about 80%. But every time I've been like, invited into a sparring session, which is obviously where I met yourself,
Yeah, yeah.
when you and Luke Jackson were preparing for his title fight in Ireland. It seems like you guys really are hell bent on having a fight during those sessions, right? Like, and I know it's all love, but like, I really don't see you guys pulling the punches. The only difference I see is that you guys put on the headgear. Um, but yeah, with that in mind, like, do you want to see your kids follow in your footsteps and sort of, or do they even see an interest in what you do? Or would you like to go, look, if I had my way, it's something that I would kind of shy them away from, I guess?
It's, as a father, I do my best now to shy my boys away from it. But at the same time, allow them to understand the benefits of being healthy and looking after their body. Um, my youngest son, he's a mental case, and I can most definitely see him, possibly putting on the gloves as far as fighting goes. Um, but my oldest boy, he's a big teddy bear, so I can't really see Caden, going on to be fighting, and I don't want either of them to personally myself. My road, for anyone who knows, my road hasn't been easy at all. I certainly didn't get, silver spooned anything. And as a lot of elite boxers will know, boxing's very rarely a nice story. It's all, bite your teeth and do what you got to do and work hard, for at times what feels like little reward. So for me, I'd rather see them, do a sport where they're smiling every day of the week. They've got their friends around them, and yeah, I still want to push for them to work hard and be good at what you do. But just to probably see them smile a bit more would be ideal for me.
Nice. And obviously you mentioned you didn't have the greatest start. Like, so what was your introduction to boxing? Like, did you come from a boxing kind of family or a combat family, or how
Nah.
was?
So the Lantry family from the Hunter Valley here in Maitland Way, we're sort of all football players, and that's it. Sort of every one of them are football players. Former Australian football players. Bandy Adams and so on. They're all sort of within our relations. So um, initially, when I first started being a young kid and going to boxing, I was only going to boxing because I was quite handy on a motorbike, and my dad wanted me to get into boxing to continue to stay that bit smaller but be a lot stronger. And then about oh, 6 months into that, my dad had a motorbike accident himself, and he punctured both of his lungs, and was in the John Hunter Hospital for quite some time. And there was a boxing gym, maybe 500 meters up the road from my nan and pop's house. And naturally, that was something that I could do, that I didn't need anyone to take me there or anything. It was 500 meters up the road, so I continued to go there from the age of 9 onwards. By the time that my old man was ready to sort of go again on motorbikes and he was able to move and stuff, my love for it had fallen away. I was that young kid that everything had stopped right in front of him, and I found something else instead. And that's sort of how I started boxing. So, um, yeah. Well, after that, I was a black sheep of the family. My family still loved me. Don't get me wrong, but they were all the football players and everything else, and I was this person who was getting punched in the head for whatever reason I chose. So.
And did you find that you were automatically drawn to fighting? Like, and I guess like even to the point of like not in a boxing ring, but like were you the kind of kid at school that would scrap a lot, or like did you always have
So
that
I
that
didn't
that
I didn't
mongrel
scrap a lot.
mongrel in you? I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't scrap a lot as a kid. I had a few, don't get me wrong, but I had a sort of pretty rough childhood. My mother died when I was 4. My stepfather died when I was 4, and my baby brother died when I was 4. So, as a young kid, I'm already heightened compared to most people. So, and as you know, going through school, kids say this, kids say, whatever, and and I sort of always found myself, quite heightened compared to everyone else. So when I started boxing, um, even though I loved motorbikes, every bit of it, I enjoyed that I got to hit something as hard as I could, and I got to get taught how to hit something as hard as I could, and so the love was definitely there from it from day one. Um, and then yeah, as I said, when motorbikes fell through, it was just it was that's just what I went to. That's just what I did.
Yeah, fair play. And was it something that you kind of I guess had a natural knack for, like, because a lot of people, they'll walk into a gym and they'll be like, yes, this is what I'm gonna do, right? And two things is, like, first you'll realize that you got two left feet. Like most people walk into a gym, and
Literally.
you know what I mean. Like, people think like
Yeah.
throwing punches is as easy as fisting up like this and throwing throwing fists, and not realizing that there's a whole. I mean, look, especially in boxing, they call it the sweet science, right? But there's a whole way you need to move and things like that. And I mean, look, to the point, like, a lot of people can't skip. I've seen so many people turn up to the gym and they really struggle to skip, right? So was it something that you kind of found natural, or did it take some time for you to really find your feet?
Um, no, I found my base pretty quickly. But the one thing I struggled with as a kid learning boxing was my left to right, and I couldn't quite grip while we threw our left hand more than what we threw our right hand most of the time, and the difference between setting things up with your left and banging with your right, like I just really didn't get that, and I was, I guess, that aggressive kid that just wanted to throw his right hand over and over again. um, and I think after a couple of hidings from good young kids back in the day, it sort of made me then step back and realize, like, okay, this isn't fighting, this is a science, and I've got to, for me, I'm very competitive, and I was like, I've got to listen, I've got to focus, and I've got to, go back to doing what I've been told to do. So
Yeah, right. And did you
yeah,
ever have
it's
any moments,
different.
like your first, I guess, like your first sparring sessions and stuff? Did you ever have any moments where you're like, because that's the next step. So once you get a little bit of training behind you, you obviously jump into these open sparring sessions, and sometimes it's the same thing. The first time you really get cracked in the nose, you're kind of like, oof. I,
I
I, I,
spent I
I,
spent Yeah, I spent a good 6 to 12 months just copping an absolute hiding, and with my coach standing there going, mate, when are you going to listen? Like, when are you just going to understand it's a sport? You got to do what's needed, and that, one thing sets up the other, and it continues to work from there. I couldn't count how many times I went home with a bleeding nose, and as most boxers would tell you, like, just absolutely gutted and shattered that I couldn't get something that in my head was so easy. Um, but I guess the heart got me through in the end, and I just continued to turn up day in, day out, and that's what got me, to the level I'm at now.
and was there ever, like, do you still remember the point where you crossed over? So you as you say, you'd
You
go home
can't
for
remember it perfectly. Yep,
right. So can you
remember it
take us through
perfectly,
that?
man. I was sparring, sort of bigger boys than me, and I was a young kid, 13, 14 years old, 30 kilos. There was sort of nothing on me, and I was still trying to take them on, all in power and all in aggression, and you know, them being 60 plus kilos, it just was never going to happen. Um, and I remember the day that I didn't get any bleeding noses. I didn't get rattled anywhere near what I would normally get. You still get hit. It's sparring, it's boxing. You're going to get hit. But I was never hurt. And I remember walking home, like, to my old man and my nan's house from Intalara. And I remember being so happy because I wasn't put down. I wasn't dropped in sparring for the first time. I wasn't, hit with a body shot. Didn't have a bleeding nose. I was just so happy and, feeling like it's coming together. I just got to keep working. Um, that was obviously a long time ago. I think I was around 13, just before I started competing. So
And do you remember your first fight?
I do. I went all the way to Tasmania. Fought a kid from Palm Island. He'd had about 47 or 48 fights. It was my first fight. It was in the ABL. I used to be trained by Neville Short. Um, so yeah, we fought him, and I lost the fight split points decision. Went the other guy's way, but it didn't bother me at all. I was just so happy that I'd even got there, and getting there, doing so well considering I'd had zero fights.
And so the fact that you're going down this path, did you automatically like grow to the idea that you will one day want to do this as a pro? To potentially make a living out of it, or was your goal to ever I guess make the Olympics?
Yeah, look, my goal was initially just to make the Olympics. That was my real goal. You know, Maybe 3 years into boxing, I captained the Australian junior squad at the World Championships. And I went from there, and I remember after competing there, I was on my flight home, and I was just thinking this is what I want. I want to wear our colours, and I want to wear it with pride, and I want to do well. That never happened in the end due to some issues, but that was all I really wanted to do. When I got back into training after a couple of years off, I was only 18. I probably should have had better management to tell me to stay around for longer in the amateurs and, again, reach for the Olympics like I initially wanted. But my coach at the time had, recommended that he believes I should go pro. And I turned pro at, I think it was 18. Yeah, I did literally just turned 18 and I turned pro.
And when you say you had issues and took time off, was it due to injury or?
Nah, look, so I actually was taken away, and I did 18 months of time um, locked away. And now, 18 months into it, I got my appeal put through the Supreme High Court, and I was sent home in 15 minutes for the crime that I hadn't committed. So I'd gone away for nearly 2 years of my life for something that wasn't me. And then, obviously for me, I felt like, I mean, as any sort of kid does, your life's over, your sport's over, it's done. You've sort of thrown your life away type thing. And when I got out, and I guess, my coach at the time with the whole pro sort of thing had excited me and sort of sparked, that spark back up that was needed for boxing. But now I look back on it, I probably should have chased, the Commonwealths and the Olympics, only 2 to 4 years later, and I still would be young. So, I think people do forget my age. I'm only 28 and just turned 28. I'm not old yet in this sport. I'm getting old, but I'm not old yet. But yeah, I probably should have took my time a bit more.
So can I guess that it would have been juvie, right? Because you're saying you got out when you were 18,
correct.
so you were still young.
Yeah.
Can I ask what for? Was it like drink driving or?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Look, there was a fight that was at Maitland Showground, and some of my mates and some other people had got into a fight, and the fight resulted in somebody passing away, and the passing away when everything had gone down. The main people involved had pointed the finger at me. So obviously when that went down, it was like, oh, he's a fighter. There was things in the court from the papers from them saying, he's a fighter, he's born to do stuff like this, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't the case at all. And it took 18 months to prove it, but, it was proven. So I'm certainly not cranky at anyone or anything, it's life. And, I put myself in shitty positions around shitty people, and I should have chose better. It's just, as simple as that.
But when you say not angry with anyone, you obviously separated yourself from these people, right?
Oh, big time! Yeah, I'm a family man now. I've got my kids. I got my partner. I see my dad. I see close family members, and that's literally it. I pretty much live the life as a pro boxer now, and I just train in my own gym and coach my own people, and have the people that I want around me. I haven't got a lot of time for people that haven't been around for long, or don't show the right sort of motions that I want. So
Nice. Well, look, the last thing I'll ask on that, because I mean, obviously that's kind of crazy. But like being put away like that, and knowing that you were innocent, and obviously you've said they've overturned it, but it took 18 months. And I only say because obviously we're adult now, but as a kid, like when you're sitting in juvie, knowing that you're innocent, um, and obviously at the time you're not knowing that it will get overturned. What goes through a kid's mind there?
Look, I think with my mother and stepfather and stuff passing away so early, I think I grew up a lot quicker than a lot of other people. Um, the only real thing that I really remember was me thinking sort of the first 2 months that I was in there, my life's over. Like, I've done the wrong thing and my life's over type thing. Um, but about 3 months in there, just being myself and just cruising every day and training in the gym and whatever. Um, I had some people, offer to put their hands up and help me out with coming to pads and everything. And I had multiple people in there that were from Newcastle, and all of them were saying like, "Man, don't give up. You're so young. Like, don't give up. Just keep training, keep doing what you can, and get back to work when you can." And I think that kept me sane. That just it sort of kept that boxing brain that boxers have, where you wake up, you think about boxing, you eat when you're thinking about boxing. Like your life just revolves around it. So in my own world where we were, I'm still just thinking about boxing, and I think that got me through a
But
lot.
but did you ever doubt it too? Because what you were saying before, though, is the reason they were pointing the fingers at you was because they were kind of like, well, he's the pro fighter, or he's the
Yeah,
fighter.
yeah,
So did you ever have that thought of maybe turning your back on that sport? Because
shit,
as
man.
you say, like it kind of, as you're saying right now, it kind of saved you, but on the same token, it's kind of the reason you were there in the
Yeah,
first place, right? So was there any moment where you were kind of like, I need to distance myself from fighting. I need to get away from
I
this.
would big time, man. I would, have regular, sort of chats with myself, once in a blue moon, every couple of weeks type thing of like, nah, it's too much, just go and relax and just, be a normal person. Um, but then I would fight myself like, I love this shit. This is what I do. This is, this feels so normal to me. And, I can't turn my back on something that feels so normal. So, yeah, I think every boxer still to this day has those thoughts, because boxing's such a nasty sport in a way where it gives so little back at times. That you're always fighting yourself like, oh, should I be doing this, or should I just be, for me, should I just be that family man, or should I keep doing what I do because I love this? And I think, any real boxer will turn back to like, they love this shit, and we all do. If we didn't do it, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be fighting. So I think
And
that saved me then, and still saves me now to this day.
and when you mention it's a sport that gives so little back, what do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that, like, you know, a lot of, 98% of people, they'll go and live their normal life. They'll go and have dinners. They'll go and have cafes. They'll go and have a few drinks with their mates. They'll just go and live a normal life, where boxing is a very, very demanding sport, and then it screams for your attention 24/7. And, as most people will know, in boxing, you can either give it and, win most of the time, or don't give it and you'll lose without a doubt. So although it can give you great things like winning and, the things that come with winning and beating those better guys, it can also be the loss, and it can also be, as a boxer, well, for me anyway, I don't know other people, but for me, if I'm beaten, um, it's so mentally damaging for me. It's so like everything's turned upside down and my world's wrong. Because it means so much to each and every legitimate fighter to do what they do and do it well. So it can most definitely be damaging at the same time as very positive on their life.
Well, as they always say, it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, right?
Lowest of lows. That's it,
Um,
man. Yeah, it's
but
cool.
it's kind of funny that you say that because we got UFC 66 coming up, and literally it was the return of the Diaz brother, and in the press conference he pretty much
Yeah,
said the
Nick, I
same.
seen that.
He pretty much said exactly the same thing. He said, I feel like this is a sport that's taken everything from me and literally given nothing back. And when they tried to like obviously question him on that, he was pretty much on the same thing. He said because he's just taken a 5 year hiatus,
Yeah,
and he said like I've just realized there's more to life. Right, like he just said, and I think it's exactly as you said. There's so many family things and stuff that you miss out on because you're so dedicated and obsessed with this sport, but you get
yeah,
very
yeah.
little back. But I guess the difference with boxing, but look, we could. I'm guessing we're going to be wrong on it. Is the constant debate at the moment with these MMA guys, right? Is that they're well underpaid, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
and the reason a lot of people say that is they'll always point to boxing, right? They'll always go, look what these
the
boxers are
biggest
making,
money makers in boxing. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Look what the boxers
yeah,
are making. Where I think that's wrong because, as you just said, the biggest money makers in boxing, sure, your Floyds, they're making your
yeah.
Canelo,
That's right. Your
they're
biggest. Yeah,
making good
yeah,
money. But if you're on the undercard of even like some of the biggest cards here, I mean, without bringing up any figures or anything, but like, I mean, you were on a pretty big card last year with the Tim Tszyu. It had the who's the footy player, Paul Gallen
Paul
versus
Gallen.
Mark
Yeah.
Hunt fight. Like, are you making big dollars on those kind of events?
Look, I think for me, I got paid scrap. I mean, I'll put it out there. I got paid 5 grand. To go out and fight and beat, someone who's just fought for a world title that 98% of people avoid. That's crap money. We all know it. Like for me, that doesn't cover 6 weeks worth of training at 100% volume and doing what I need to do and paying my coaches and paying my team around me to do what they're supposed to do. It's pure crap. But taking those fights does put you out to bigger and better. Um, and and you can get paid well and you can get looked after. But I think that's the thing with boxing. Maybe the same with UFC. I don't know. I don't know how well they actually are paid. Um, but your management team around you is everything, absolutely everything. Your management team is a difference between you getting 5 grand or you're getting 50. It's really like Floyd Mayweather said for such a long time. Boxing is management. Any combat sport, for the right pay, it's all about management. So, um, I certainly agree, and I hear rumors about how they're paid and what they're paid and whatnot. But I think it's important for everyone to also remember that not boxers, all boxers aren't paid $4 million per fight. We wish, but it's not the case at all.
Well, I guess, and not that everyone's getting paid millions per fight, but I guess because I think say the UFC, like usually start the fighters on a 10-10, right? Which means you get 10 to show, 10 to win. So you win, you go home with your 20K. If you lose, you go home with 10K kind of thing. But that's like literally
Yeah,
the first fight of the card, right? And then it sort of trickles up there. But I guess even from the high end, they're talking about, these guys might get 2 mil a fight, and then you have your Floyds that's getting 300
yeah,
million a
yeah.
fight or whatever.
Yeah, but I think for everyone, it's important to remember that we started 2 grand, we started $1,000, and then we can grow and develop into whatever our management system and whatever we can make ourselves out to be, before we can start putting a dollar sign on it. So it's not like as I said, I don't even know many Australians that have been paid 20 grand. And that's 20,000, let alone there being the first fight. That's been a main event getting paid that. So, um, yeah, it's a tough call in Australia. I think America's a different story altogether.
And
completely different story altogether.
and so, how do you feel like with people like on that same card, like people like the Paul Gallen fight coming along? I mean, obviously Mark Hunt, he's a superstar in combat sports. He kind of probably can really ask for that price that he got. But you know, when you get someone who's come across from football, and I think at the time he was signed on for like 400K, I believe that fight was, or something like
Starting
it was close to
400,000, yeah.
half a mil.
Yeah.
As a boxer that's dedicated his life to the sport, and then you have people like that. I mean, look, and the big one right now is obviously the Paul brothers. I don't know if you've kept up with that kind of stuff, but you've got these,
Yeah, I haven't been into it, but I
right?
see it. Yeah.
But you got these YouTubers coming across, and they're demanding big money. For someone who's dedicated their life to a sport, how do you feel about these guys coming across and getting these big ticketed fights? Like, is it a case of that you find it a little disrespectful, or is it a case of that if it's bringing more eyes to the sport, and then i.e. potentially raises the money for everyone else, you're okay with it?
You know, if somebody makes money out of Australia, for example, you know, Tim Tszyu keeps doing well, George Kambosos gets up, you know, those guys really are shining the light on Australian boxing. So shining the light on Australian boxing shines a light for all of us. It's not just them, you know. Um, yes, you know, Gallen's a football player, but he has come over and he's fought legitimate fighters, and he's done well. It's credit where credit's due. You know, boxing is not an easy sport, and not an easy sport in any single way. So for him to do what he's done, I think good on him. And I think you know, I know a lot of football mad people that just love watching footy. I know they're watching fights now because they're sending me videos of it. You know, they're sending me little snaps on Instagram of them watching some fight. You know, that I know without a doubt, 12 months before it, they weren't watching that. You know, so I think, you know, you got to take the good with the bad when it comes to you know, your Gow's and your Paul brothers. You know, like, they are bringing attention to the sport, and you know, that's all we've all screamed for years. Because as a professional, you know that the more eyes that are on the whole circuit, the more money we all get. It's you know, it's a hustle really, and you just got to accept it.
And say for someone like Jake Paul, do you actually see some boxing talent in him, or do you think it is a bit of a show at the moment that's going to fizzle out? Or because like from my end, like the way I see it, and I've been telling this to people all along, is like he's kind of having his amateur fights, and like the whole debate is like he hasn't fought a boxer yet, right? But like I'm like, he's only three fights into his career, and he hasn't really had an amateur career, right? So I kind of see,
as far as I know,
yeah, I kind of see him these past few fights as being his amateur fight, but it's on the pro circuit, and my reasoning behind that is, if you were told you can have these amateur fights or we'll pay you 30 million, you're going to take the 30 million all day, right?
and that's exactly what I say to my guys. You got to respect the hustle. You know, making money is making money, and that's, you know, whether we all admit it or not, that's what everyone's here for. If you go to work, if you go to train, and you do, you know, you're there for the money. That's why you're a pro. You know, you're there because you want the money. It helps your family. Yes, you love what you do, but you know, you're there for the money. Otherwise, you would have stayed in the amateur ranks. You know, it's simple as that. Not many people admit that, but it is the case. You know, if you didn't care about the money, you wouldn't have turned pro. You would have just stayed amateur, and you would have kept trying to fight for your country. Um, you know, if it makes money, you know, Floyd Mayweather said it for such a long time. If it makes money, it makes sense. You know, you can accept it, you can understand it. So
But from a
I think it gets
technical,
eyes.
sorry, but from a technical point of view, do you actually see him being a credible boxer? Like, and I'm not saying right now, like, but when you see him, like, do you go, look, give him another 5 years and he could actually become a legitimate boxer, or do you see it more
I mean,
of a,
how old is he? I don't even know how old he is. How old is he?
I don't know. I think he's early 20s, so he's probably like
Man,
22, 23.
early 20s, 100%. He could have a couple of great fights later on in time and actually turn people's heads in it. You know, like, I know I've seen some sparring footage that he's put up, or that whoever's put up, that I've actually, oh, he doesn't look too bad there. He looks all right. Um, you know, I think Jake's the better brother from what I've seen out of clips from both of them. But you know, like, I think experience helps anyone. So, what we're seeing now is him still winning and him still knocking people out. And he is very inexperienced. He's had no fight experience at all, really, from what we all understand. So, if he's going to keep turning heads to watch our sport, so be it. I'm not tuning into it personally. I personally don't tune in to watch it. But credit to him, and the money that he's getting, and good on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Like I say the same thing. Like there's one part of me that says I don't want to tune in, but then there's the other part that I just know people are going to be talking about it, and I kind of tune in. The last card I did have to tune in because I just wanted to see what a 58-year-old Evander Holyfield could do, but
yeah, nah.
it was
See, they're the
sad.
fight. I can't watch those fights, man. I can't watch them. I don't. I tuned in for one round of the Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson, and Roy Jones Jr. is one of my all-time favorites. But I just can't watch two older fellas just banging into each other that way. Just it's not for me.
No, that's fair play. So you mentioned before as well, like about having a good team around you, and management and things like that. Like, how hard is that to find in a sport? Like, have you always been in the same team, or have you changed your team over time?
Now, look, I've changed my team twice now. I went from Neville Short on to Ben Crampton was helping me out there at Cessnock for a little while. Ben then stepped away from it, and then I seeked. My brother was actually doing some training with Jamie Pittman at the time. So then, I sort of reached out to Jamie. I'd seen what he was doing with Bo. I'd liked certain things that he was doing, and I reached out to Pity, and me and Pity have been what we've been ever since. So um, it's everything. As any real fighter would tell you, it is key. It is important to have management and have people that are actually looking after you. There in front of you.
And when you look for your team, and especially, I mean, because you wear both hats, right? So like, when you're looking for a coach, what are the qualities that you find makes a good coach? And I guess this is a bit of self-assessment too, right? Because like you always have like these different techniques where, and people will like barrack behind it on like, you're surrounded by yes man, and then you have other coaches that are full balls to the wall where, they really like not belittle you, but like they'll drive you back down to the ground. It's about finding that fine balance, I guess. I don't know, but like
Yeah.
from your perspective, like what is it that you look for in your coaches, and then I guess also like being a coach, what are the kind of qualities that you try to bring out of yourself?
Look, the biggest thing with me is, for me, as a coach, not only as a coach, even as an athlete, I've always found that I can overthink 98% of people when it comes to boxing. I can overthink, I can see what they're going to do, I can read what they're going to do. So for me, the biggest thing that attracted me to Jamie's sessions was when I could ask him why we were doing something, or why did I have to throw this shot instead of that shot? That Jamie could always respond, and he still can. He can always respond and say, because of this, because, you're going to walk onto this shot, or, you're stepping that way and it's not allowing you to punch as hard as you can because your feet are wrong. And I really liked that I could get that answer. I really liked that, I had someone thinking for me as well as my own brain. I had someone that was sort of, another voice in the back of my head that was smarter than me, which that's what really, attracted me to training Jamie's ways. As most people will tell you, if they've trained with Jamie, he's a thinker. So, to be able to be there and go, okay, look, we're going to do this for this fight because such and such is going to do this, and he's going to have this style of defense, and this is how we get around it. That's how my brain works, where I think a lot of coaches in Australia, 80% of coaches in Australia are old school. They're tough. They, yell or scream, push their athletes and tell them to work harder. And, they don't think sometimes. And for me, I'm a thinker. So, Jamie's head is what got me with Jamie and staying with Jamie.
And at what point did he jump on? Like, was it when you went from amateurs to pro, or how far along
Nah,
were you?
that was my third pro fight. So my third pro fight, I was just feeling like what was in front of me just wasn't enough to make it. So I'd looked at sort of the best that we'd had in this country, and I started putting my feelers out there and talking to my brother quite often because my brother was training with him. And it sort of just grew from there. To the point where once I trusted in him, I was traveling an hour and 20 every single morning and every single afternoon to go and train with him before I'd come back and train my own and then repeat the same process in the afternoon. So
Yeah, crazy. And I mean, you went on a pretty good run, right? Like, because I had a look at your record. I think you had 2 wins, you dropped one, then you went on a nice little streak before dropping two. And I believe that after the second one, I read an article where you said you really had to do some soul searching. I think it was the Daniel Carr fight or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what I guess what was the soul searching? Was it because you dropped two? Was it that? Because I also read it.
Nah,
I
look,
think it was in the same article
I
as
just
well,
yeah,
where it talks about that you say that you're kind of your best and your worst best friend, worst enemy as well. Like that article
yeah.
spoke a lot about that. When you're in tune mentally, you're there and you could pretty much beat anybody. But then also there's a lot of times that you admit that you're just not there.
Yeah, big time, man. Look, for that 2 fight streak, um, I'd had a lot of mental demons with myself, and with my training system at the time. So at the time, I'd gone from training with Jamie, 1 to 2 times every day, to Jamie getting the head coaching role down at the Australian Institute of Sport. So I'd gone from having Jamie with me every second of the day, that I needed to be an athlete. He was there and he mentored me and showed me, what we're going to do. And still to this day, I put all my faith in Jamie to get me over the line. And when Jamie left, I just mentally crumbled. I just felt like I couldn't do anything. Like when I really stepped back and had a look at what was really going on. I don't feel like it was so much that Jamie had left. I feel like it was I'd given up on myself. I'd given up that I couldn't do it anymore because Jamie wasn't there. Which that's on me. And I swallowed the pills and got back to work and come up with the following win. So and I'm a lot mentally stronger now because of that phase, because of bouncing back and biting down when times got hard. So um, yeah, they were tough times, very tough times.
And I have to ask, like, was it ever? Did you ever, when you say tough times and going into dark places, did you ever then rely on? I don't want to say drugs, but like drugs or alcohol. Did you ever dabble
Nah,
into
nah. So
that
it's one
or?
thing I can It's one thing I can honestly stand here and say I'm very proud of myself. I've never ever touched drugs in my life. I've never smoked. I've never looked at any of that in my life. I drank as a young kid, young 14, sort of 15-year-old. I had a few around 18 when I sort of first got out. Just normal drinking. But yeah, I've probably had maybe 1, 2 Jack Daniels in maybe 6 years now. I don't drink at all now, so I think it's a massive positive for me.
Nice, nice. No, it's just and the only reason I ask is, when a lot of people always talk about going into a dark place, usually one thing leads to another, and before you know it, someone sinks into that hole. But look,
Yeah,
as you said, you were able to turn it around, and this is where the story gets good anyway, right? Because as I said, I originally met you during one of Luke Jackson's camps, and it was for that Frampton fight, the world title fight. Um, how did that fight even come about? And as you said, like because look. let's just put it out there. Like, it was crazy, right? Like, you guys are in somewhat sparring partners. You help each other.
Yeah.
As you say, you go on a two fight skid. You go into your dark place. How did this fight even eventuate? And
Yeah, I got no idea. For me, it was the best thing for me. Not because I got the win and stuff like that was just, the bonus on top. But, um, for me, that fight sparked, a candle under my ass again to get back to work because, I knew I could do it and I knew that I have what it takes to do it. So, that fight was certainly the light at the end of the tunnel of that dark place, that I was in for quite some time. So, look, I was honestly sitting on my ass, going for a run every couple of days or something like that. When Jamie gave me the phone call and he said, in his words, he said, Tice, what weight are you at? And I said to him, I said, oh, I've got no idea why. And he goes, I need you to jump on the scales for me. And I said, why? He said, oh, we've got to fight. I said, I'll fight who? And he goes Luke Jackson, and for me, I asked him 3 times, "Are you serious? Are you sure? Are you sure that he's gonna um, you know take that fight? Like, it's certainly not a fight that I ever expected." And he goes, 100% Toss. They've rang me, they've offered it to me. I just need to know what weight you're at. And I jumped on the scales, and I think I was, I hadn't fought in a long time from the skids, and as I said, I was in the dark place, so I was sitting. I think I was at my heaviest at about 73, 74. Um, and I had 5.5, 6 weeks to make the weight, but I'd rang Jamie back and I said, "Oh look, I'm at 71." Because I just, I wanted it. I knew I could. I knew I could prove that I was good enough, and do it. Um, and Jamie, his response was good because I've already said yes. He knew that it was a good fight for me as well, and um, I dieted extremely hard with the knowledge of my partner beside me, Jazz. She's my actual nutritionist and dietitian, so I couldn't cut any corners. My partner lives with me, so I cut the weight to make the fight, and we got where we got. So I was extremely happy. But yeah, that was certainly the light at the end of the tunnel for me.
so, and what gave you the confidence? Because obviously, as I said, you had mixed some rounds with him before, right? Um, and I guess once again, I don't want to keep going back to this dark spot, but you've just gone on a 2 fight skid, and then you get offered this fight, and we can say, look, he's a former title challenger, which you already knew because obviously you were helping him prepare for that fight. But I mean, let's face it, when the odds came out, the bookies, right? I think you were the biggest underdog of the entire card. Like I think at
Yeah,
some point.
I was actually looking at it today. I was the biggest underdog in the world in 2020. So I've got a screenshot on my phone of the betting odds, and I'm in front of people like Teo Lopez versus Lomachenko. I'm in front of Jason Rosario. I'm in front of some world class fighters, for the biggest odds in 2020.
I mean, yeah, when I checked, I think you were hovering between, I think it was 11 to $13, right? It was like 11 or $13, somewhere in there, maybe $12. So
Yeah.
having that, so you've literally, as I say, you're on this skid. You see those kind of odds, so you kind of go like, what's the thought process there? Is there like shriek confidence in you because you know what you can do and you have shared rounds with him, or are you looking at those,
So
or are you looking at those odds and going, is there something that I'm not seeing because these people have written me
I
off?
was there the whole time with the biggest smile on my face, knowing that I was about to shock the world. I never had, an ounce of thought I can't do this. I can't beat him. I went into the camp knowing that I could do it, and that's why I said yes to the fight, even though I was super heavy. And I just knew that I could come out and perform well. I think I've shown a lot of people now that I can perform well. As long as I'm there and I'm turning up for the fight, that I can perform well, and I will. Like, I think it was just all confidence. I think that whole camp, as I said, it was not only from the moment I got the phone call, but just the whole way through was just the light at the end of the tunnel for me. I was happy. I was training every day. I was happy. Where you normally saw him fatigued and cranky and upset at times. It was never the case. I was happy that I was sore. I was happy that I was back. I was happy that I was still considered, a good fighter to be able to get those fights. And it just sparked me. It sparked a lot for me. So.
And were you confident? Because obviously it went to decision. Were you confident that you were going to get the nod?
Big time. There was literally, I remember right before they said it, I had one thought oh, they might give it to him. And then I was like, my own head was like, no way can they. I scored everything I wanted to score. There's no way. And then when they'd announced the winner, I was like, that's better. That's sweet. I'm good. Obviously, a great moment for myself. My partner who's been with me through all the skids. My coach Jamie, who same thing. He's been with me on the ride the whole time. Jazz and Pity are just my rocks really. So, it was just a nice moment to share with all of them, and as an athlete, feel like I'm giving back. As a athlete of boxing, most of it's for you. Do you know what I mean? Like all the time and attention on you, but that win for me was like my thank you for Jamie and Jazz and Nudge and all the guys that had put so much time into me over the 5.5, 6 weeks that we had.
So I assume Jamie was the one in your corner as well, because the one thing I noticed, I was actually ringside for that fight, as you would have known, and I have to say, and you don't get it often, and I guess this is where I really appreciate it, is the voice from the corner. And I did notice that your corner was very vocal.
Very vocal. Very clear.
Right? Very clear, very vocal. But the interesting factor as well, and I always relay back to, I don't know how much you know about MMA, but Demetrius Johnson used to be the flyweight champion, defended it 11 times or whatever. And the same thing, he had that relationship with his coach where you could literally see the coach yell something out and the fighter follow. And I really saw that in you in that fight, that I saw that the corner was very vocal, but you were very receptive to that, and you would respond very quickly. It was kind of like he was playing a video game and you were the little action figure in the middle, right?
Yeah. When I first started with Jamie, go way back, but when I first started with Jamie out of King Cumber there with him boxing, when I'd started, I pretty much sat him down. I said to him, Jamie, look, I've had a rough trot. I haven't had the easiest run. I don't want, any sympathy for it. But what I'm telling you is all my eggs are in your basket. After this, I'm done with it. I've got a family and I've got people to look after that deserve my time. So my eggs are in your basket. Whatever happens, it's me and you, and that's it. You've got my full trust, and let's get to work and do what we can do. And that bond hasn't changed, and I don't think it will personally. We both sort of get each other, and we both understand each other, and I think that's what forms the bond really well.
Beautiful. And obviously from that win, which was a great win, as you said, biggest underdog of the year, you obviously got offered another massive fight, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, was that a quick turnaround fight? I don't even know. Was it the very next card? I don't even know. Paul
No,
Fleming.
it was a little bit later, but for me, it was the quickest turnaround I've had in my professional career. So it wasn't bad. I enjoyed going from one job, having a couple of weeks off and then going back into the next job. It actually felt like I was a professional and I was doing what I had to do. It was good.
And sometimes you've got to ride that wave.
Right now.
Yeah, and sometimes you've got to ride that wave too, right? I mean, you've just come off a massive win, so the endorphins are there, and you're ready to take on the world. But I mean, look, Paul Fleming's no joke either, right? I mean, that that was a big fight to take. But am I right in saying that Jamie wasn't in your corner for that one? Because I read somewhere that you had relocated that camp, right? And you actually left
No,
your partner and the kids at home as well.
yeah, no, Jamie was in that camp. Just the only difference is instead of traveling every weekend to go and see Jamie, I actually lived in Canberra with Jamie. And I'd done everything down there with Jamie. So I was in Canberra for 8 weeks, and I would come home of a weekend and then go again, instead of the opposite way where I was with my family through the week and then with Jamie on the weekend.
Yeah, right. And so talk us through that fight, because obviously, like, in preparation for that fight, you look good. And the only reason I ask about that fight is we were actually I was watching it with a few other people, and I was also talking to a few people on the internet, and we actually thought you were in that fight. Like, we full-fledged thought you were in that fight, and then there was a moment that you obviously went back into the corner in between rounds, as you do,
Yep.
and you went back out, and it was kind of weird because it was like that first exchange. It was very early on in that round. That first exchange, your corner had decided to throw in the towel, which, look, I totally appreciate, because I don't think it happens enough in the MMA space where coaches are throwing in the towel. But can you kind of walk us through, like, the events that occurred and like, did you know that was going to happen? Because I know the natural reaction when it originally
Jamie always
happened.
talks to me.
So when it originally happened, I literally had people going, why did they throw in the towel? Like, you know, Tyson was in that fight. Like, why is he throwing in the towel? So from your perspective, like, was there stuff said in between rounds there? What?
Look, Jamie's always very vocal with me and always says things how they are. And, look, Jamie just plain and simply said to me in the fifth round, look, Tyson, you need to show me more. You need to come out and give me more. Jamie said, I know you're tough. I already know that. We're either here to win it or we're not in it at all. So, you're going to go out and you're going to show me more, or the towel's coming in. It's your choice. Like, for me, I don't feel like I even got the chance to show more personally. But I'm not mad in any way, shape, or form. My family was very appreciative of him, and all my family have personally, thanked himself that Jamie cares for me enough to stop things when they should or could be stopped. But yeah, look, he asked more of me, and I'll certainly, as any fighter is, ready to give more. I do feel like it was early. I think it was the first exchange from when I've watched back on it, the first exchange of punches. But again, there's no hard feelings or nothing like that. Pity's my coach, and he's the man, and he did ask me to give him more, and that's that.
No, and I guess that's what it is like, as I said, and I'll tell you, it was the first exchange. That's why we were all kind of like, huh? What just happened there? Because it was like literally the first exchange. And then the whole thought process was like, okay, maybe like you were injured or something. And it was literally like discussed in between rounds. And they were like, look, we're going to throw it in unless we see something. But as you just mentioned, like, we didn't really get an opportunity to see more because it was literally the first kind of flurry.
Yeah.
So
look, and I mean, being honest and saying it from how it is from my coach's point of view, I had set punches that I should have been letting off, and for the first maybe 3 rounds, 4 rounds, they were sitting in my pocket and they weren't doing nothing. So it took me a few rounds to even start getting going on throwing punches and countering the shots that I wanted to counter and whatnot. So, it's fair's fair. They've asked more of me, and I should have delivered on that at the time. But it is what it is.
Too easy. But look, we will start to wrap it up. I have got a couple of questions, obviously, that have been sent in. So I'll get them, and then we'll start to sort of wind it down. So the first question that I have for you is, what does your training schedule look like inside a fight camp in comparison to outside of fight camp?
Yeah, look, that's one of the biggest issues for me at the moment, and that's sort of what I'm trying to fix myself on the side. So, um, in camp, there's no better camps in Australia than what Jamie puts in front of me. I get running programs, I get strength programs, I get sparring, I get everything that I'm needed. I've got Jamie in front of me 24/7 the last fight or two, and that's how it's going to continue to be. Um, Outside of camp is my issue at the moment because I come back home here to the Hunter Valley. When I'm here at the Hunter Valley, I'm the coach around here. It's people come and see me. So, um, when it comes to my home training, it's a lot different. It's just me running because I know I should be running, and fighters shouldn't die off when it comes to running. Um, you know, I get pads because my pad man comes in, Shano, and he's unbelievable for me. He helps me with my conditioning as well. But when it comes time to the contact work, like your partner work and your sparring and so on, I get nothing. I get nothing at all. And for me, everyone goes, oh, just spar your own people. It's different, for me as a coach, I don't feel like a coach should be sparring his athletes. It's that's for me. That's just not how it works. Like my athletes are supposed to grow off me, not have me hurting them with shots that I know that they're available to get hit with because we've been working on for 6 months. So that's the hardest point for me is trying to chop and change that up now, which I'm about to. I'm about to start doing some work with. I'm sure you know Blake Minnow. Minnow's another Hunter Valley kid, so I'm going to start trying to be doing once a week with Minnow. We'll get in and help each other out. Both get sparring. Obviously, both of us take pretty big fights compared to an average person. So hopefully we can start helping each other out outside of camps and just stay active. And then come inside of camp. Well, it really depends on where I'm based, whether I'm in Canberra or whether I'm here or, Queensland for a fight camp or, sort of whatever is put in front of me.
Too easy. Beautiful. And the second question that I've been sent is, where do you get your resilience from? So much has been thrown at you in life.
I think, I've often said to my family, and, I said to my partner and stuff, when you grow up, at the age of 4, losing, what's supposed to be, well, not what's supposed to be, but what is the closest person and thing to you being your mum. I think from day one, I was just born into understanding that life was hard and life is tough, and you just got to accept it and do what you can do. That's all you can do is do what you can do. And I think my road has just made me like that. It's just how I am, and it's what I try to brush off to my athletes and the people that I try to support. Things are what they are. We can only do what we can do. So focus on what we can do.
Nice. I was going to ask you what the hardest, I guess, hat to wear for you is, or what makes you lose the most amount of hair if you have any hair to lose. Yeah. So what's the hardest hat to wear? Is it being a father, being a fighter, or being a coach?
Oh, it's really hard. It all has its own things. Being a dad, it's your job 24/7. So for me, being a dad, I don't feel is hard. It's just, it's what I'm supposed to do. Being an athlete, the hard part about being an athlete isn't the training, like a lot of people think. It's the lows. It's when you get in those dark places and you're trying to get out of those dark places, that's the hard part. Um, I'd probably say coaching myself, because what I didn't know about coaching when I first started coaching was that my job's to be a mentor to people. And being a mentor to people starts to feel like, your mum and, you're a dad to 20 adults as well, and trying to feed them along the right sort of line to walk as well. And that's a lot harder than what I ever thought it would be. So yeah, I'd probably say coaching for me. I enjoy being a dad. I enjoy being an athlete. I love when I've got easy athletes in front of me, but not all athletes are easy as most know. So yeah, I'd say coaching.
Nice. And then the last question for you is, what is your toughest fight to date? Your your favorite fight to date? And looking into the future, what would be your dream fight?
Look, toughest fight would be my last fight, and it's not because Paul stopped me or anything like that. Um, as I said, I'm a thinker. So for me, that fight was really hard, not because of the punches that he was outlaying or what he was doing. It was the fact that I couldn't work my way around getting what I wanted to get and do it. Where usually, I can set traps and bait people, and it's fixed itself. Where Paul's a very smart fighter as well, and I couldn't set those traps, and I couldn't do those little things that I like to do that sort of make me feel like I'm starting to get on top. Um, yeah, that most definitely be my hardest fight. What was the second question?
So the second part of that was your favorite fight to date.
Your favorite fight has to be the light at the end of the tunnel for me with the Jackson fight. I feel like not because of I mean I guess it's a credit where credit's due with the fighter that he is, but what I love out of that fight myself is that the nation actually realized that I could fight, and that I was worth watching and following, and supporting my career as well. And it sort of just, as I said, it was the light for me. It sparked me, but at the same time felt like the reason why you boxed was all there in one go. I felt appreciated, so it was good.
Was the energy different in that fight? Also, because that was probably the largest crowd you fought in front of, right? Did you feel a different
Very,
energy in the
yeah,
room?
very different. Luke lives in Sydney. My cousins and stuff from Sydney couldn't make it. I had sort of my corner there. I had some of my boxers had actually grabbed tickets and got down there. My sponsors had got tickets and got down there. But I certainly knew that I wasn't the favorite, and I wasn't the one that everyone wanted to win at the time. Until we got through, and then people saw who I was, and then I think towards the end of the fight, and the response that I got from the crowd at the end of the fight was a big difference to the walkout feeling. So
Nice. And then, as I said, the last part of that question was looking forward now. What would be your dream fight? Like, what would be a fight that you really want?
look, man, I don't ever pick anyone out personally. Um, I just want legitimate fights, and I want Australia to see that's all that's worth watching is legit fights, because that gives people like myself that little bit more credit. I've taken on legitimate fights, and that's pretty much it. You've had your few fights and whatnot, but most of my fights have been hard, legitimate tests where it's a 50-50 fight or a 60-40 fight. It's not a 80-20 fight. In saying that, any of the top people that are rated that makes me go higher, I'm happy to stand in front of. I've proved that I am tough, and I know I'm tough. I've got that spirit that wants to fight anyone that's worth fighting for me. Obviously money's got to make sense and whatnot too, but as far as who goes, it doesn't matter, just as long as it's a legit fight.
Nice, nice. Well, look, we'll wrap it up. Before I let you go, though, I'm gonna get two fight picks from you because they're obviously been announced and they're up and coming, and they both got Australians involved. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're pretty big fights. So we'll start with the first one: Lopez versus Kambosos. How do you see that fight play out, and who is your pick for that fight?
Look, I'm a Aussie, and I'm gonna back an Aussie. I've known George for a long time myself. Um, I think it's an extremely hard test to overcome, though. Um, my heart says George, but my brain says that Lopez will get the win.
And why do you see it such a hard test?
Lopez is so strong, and he's not only strong, but he's big. And he's not only big, but he can punch. So you, you know, Vasyl Lomachenko couldn't outwork him with his work rate. So a work rate's not going to be enough to be able to outdo him. You know, it's going to be brains, and it's going to be, you know, a boxing match. And I just feel like Lopez is so young himself. You know, I think people forget how young Lopez is, that it's a bloody tough test. But again, I'm an Aussie. I'm backing an Aussie. So
Nice, nice. Well, then I guess the next one's going to be an easy pick too. They've just announced that Tim Tszyu is fighting up in Queensland against Inouye. Is it Inouye? The correct. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
How do you see how do you see that fight play out? Obviously, I can already guess who you're going to pick for it. But yeah, how do you see that fight play out?
Yeah, no, look, I think that's a fight that Tim can most definitely win and handle, and not only handle but grow from. And you know, him growing from those experiences is what will get him, you know, the world title in the future. So I'm definitely backing Tim on that one.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, that's it, man. Like as I said, I appreciate the time that you bring along. For anyone that kind of wants to reach out to you or kind of follow your boxing journey, or even if they're, I guess, in the Hunter region, I mean, the gyms are shut at the moment, but I guess once we all reopen, what's kind of the best way people can get in touch with you, I guess?
Yeah, look, you guys can follow myself for my career on Tyson_Lantry online. That's on Instagram. Facebook is just Tyson Lantry. If you can follow me on them for the gym, and to join the coaching squad, or you know, join in, you know, as a fighter yourself, you know, you can follow team_Lantry_boxing on Instagram, or you can follow Team Lantry Boxing on Facebook. And same again, I can message you straight back on there and sort you out anything that you need.
Well, there you have it. As I said just a moment ago, I can't thank you enough. I know sometimes these things are like really hard to kind of tee up because they do take a bit of time. Obviously, you're traveling from work at the moment, and it's kind of worked out because, as I said, originally I really was wanting you to come in. Hopefully, we can get you to come in the future at some point in time anyway.
Definitely, yeah.
But
Definitely.
yeah, look, with these lockdowns, things are the way they are. We can't do much about it, but I really do appreciate the time, and I hope we do get some fight news from your neck of the woods real soon. But
yeah,
until
stay
then,
tuned.
stay
That's
blessed.
all I can say, guys. Stay tuned. Yeah, stay tuned.
I'm the